The most money I've had a guy spent on me on a date was $2,500. $2,500. If I'm going to your house, at least fill up my tank. So they pretty much been paying anything and everything for me.
As a woman, I think it's so important that you let any man that you deal with know that you will absolutely call the police on him. He knows what's up. You're going to jail, bucko.
The Black male podcasters are building community amongst themselves at the expense of Black women, at the expense of Black children. It's abundantly clear men like him do not mentor young boys. That is the only thing we can hope for.
All right, y'all, a little bit of house cleaning before we get started. For those who've been rocking with me from day one, I appreciate the support. For those who may be new here, coming in or out the door, for me, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, get it cracking in the comments. Every bit of your engagement helps promote me into the YouTube algorithm. I thank y'all for the support. Now, let's get to it. Drop the video. Let's go. Y'all know how we do it.
So the reason why I have my standards set the way they are is because men kind of already set that bar for me. They've been filling up my tank. They've been taking me out to nice, fancy, expensive dinners. The most money I've had a guy spent on me on a date was $2,500. $2,500 on one date. So they've already been setting that standard for me. They've set it for me. So my standards are not going anything less than that. And I don't expect every guy that takes me out to spend $2,500. No, but if I'm going to your house, at least fill up my tank. So they pretty much been paying anything and everything for me, including my oil change and all the bills that I have. So.
The box. You opened it. We came.
Do you smell that? I'm smelling bop action. Now, any woman that takes what she said only on the surface level, you may confuse this with a woman dating men with intent or dating men to get to know men. This is not what she's talking about. She's talking about something of the variety of escorting, escorting, the fans only variety, the stuff you can find on the internet if you put in certain search engines and pull up certain porn sites. This is what she's talking about. Pay attention to what she said. Pay my bills, spend $2,500 on me if I'm going back to your house. Why would you be going back to someone's house? What is that about? Why are you going back to someone's house? Why is a guy spending $2,500 on just a date with you? Girl, stop this nonsense. You're out here selling box.
The box.
You're a cat slanger.
Shame.
And you're trying to disguise this as if it's not what we all see it is. You're selling box. You're a box bandit. And if any woman believes that men are just spending money and paying your bills and getting your oil changed for your car just because they go on a date with you is a fool. You're selling box. End of story. Anyone else that wants to argue over that point, argue with your mama. She's a box seller. Let's go to the next one.
As a woman, I think it's so important that you let any man that you deal with know that you will absolutely call the police on him. I don't care if you're dating him, if he's your brother, your cousin, a friend. You don't need to explicitly say it, but you need to give off that vibe, because if at any point he decides that you need to smell what the Rock is cooking, he knows what's up. You're going to jail, bucko. As a woman, I think it's so important that you let any man that you deal with know that you will absolutely call the police on him. I don't care if you're dating him, if he's your brother, your cousin, a friend. You don't need to explicitly say it, but you need to give off that vibe, because if at any point he decides that you need to smell what the Rock is cooking, he knows what's up. You're going to jail, bucko.
Just like a woman.
Tell me what type of men you date without telling me what type of men you date. Why would you date someone where you have to set an expectation that if you get into some type of physical altercation, you will call the cops. Why is that even a point of reference for you when you're dating someone? What type of guys have you dated? See, this is why we say women do not practice proper discernment. Because if you were a woman, a healthy woman that did not thrive in toxic relationships of violence, this would not be a talking point for you. But if you are one of those women that thrive in toxicity of violence in relationships, then this will absolutely be a conversation you will have with a guy who you're trying to date with intent. This makes zero sense. Why do preemptive threatening to someone that you will call the police on them if you get into a physical altercation, if you don't expect that from the start?
Boy, are you stupid.
You're not healthy, ma'am. You're dysfunctional and toxic as the men you're claiming you would call the cops on. Jesus, tell us that you're a dysfunctional person without telling us that. Go to the next one. Dysfunctional ass.
Okay, let me ask you this. How are your kids are going to be an asset to me if I was dating you?
I would never date a man that ever asked me no craziness like that.
See,
I would never.
But
Because you would never ask me how my kids would be an asset to you.
that's the thing.
That's insanity.
But see, I'm coming from a logical standpoint.
The Black male podcasters are building community amongst themselves at the expense of Black women, at the expense of Black children and Black queer folk.
And here we go.
It's abundantly clear that when they turn on their microphones and turn on their cameras, that they just can't wait to on people. That's what they cannot wait to reinforce all of the negative aspects of masculinity. They cannot wait to do that. How is being a step parent a negative thing? How is it being a negative thing? I don't quite understand. What happens to a community when a significant group or cluster of them decide that being a step parent is a negative thing and that they are going to create platforms that reach thousands, if not millions of people and reinforce that narrative that being a step parent makes you less of a person. It makes you less of a man. I mean, how easy is it for us as a community to descend into, I hate to say it, degeneracy? How easy is it for that to happen when you've got so many people being openly nonsensical, openly stupid, openly anti-intellectual? How easy is it to descend into white supremacy when no one does the work and no one does the reading they're supposed to be doing? I hate to be a pessimist, but the more I see videos like this, the more I feel like, man, we're a lost cause as a community. And the only hope we have is to intervene, right, with the younger generation and make sure men like him do not mentor young boys. That is the only thing we can hope for.
Boo! Boo! Boo!
Let me clear some things up for her. I don't think this guy on this podcast, I forget the name of the podcast, did a good job of explaining himself. So let me try to explain this to women of her ilk. Men are not saying that being a stepdad makes you less of a man. Being a stepdad is necessarily a bad thing. We're looking over the history of stepfathers by communicating with men who are currently stepfathers and men who have been stepfathers. And the consensus is, when you're a stepfather, depending on the mother, depending on what type of woman she is, it's a thankless job. A lot of times stepfathers are not shown respect by the children of the woman that the man has married. A lot of times stepfathers are neglected as being father figures, because if the biological father comes back around, if the biological father happens to be there, he's always going to be first in that child's mind, which I'm not going to say that's necessarily a bad thing. The biological father absolutely should be first. But this is where I start to ask women, if the biological father is always going to be first, especially if he's a decent guy, or even if he's not a decent guy and the kids just, I mean, you can't blame children for putting their biological parent first. If that's going to be the case, what he should have said is, and I'm going to say this quite frankly, pretty brash and straightforward. Your biological baggage is a liability to me because all the connections that I have established, all the resources I have poured into those children or poured into that child goes completely away at the whim of that child's wants and desires to bond and have a relationship with the biological father.
Nah, gang, I'm not fucking with that.
It also goes away when the mother can decide to leave the marriage, i.e. through a divorce. I have no ties to that child, no ties that mother should respect.
You have no power here.
If she divorces the man. And men are saying, hey, I lose out big time by being in this situation. No one is ever saying that stepfathers don't have a place, because in the Black community, stepfathers have played a very vital role into being there, or I should say being there for children who may not even have a father, or their fathers are not that good in their lives. So stepfathers are absolutely a valuable asset in the Black community, but stepfathers in particular are starting to realize that they're not respected as that asset. They're looked at as disposable. I've heard so many women who get married and their stepfather has been there their entire lives still want their own biological father to walk them down the aisle. How do you think that makes that man feel? He's been there the whole time. He's been pouring resources, time, energy, and effort into nurturing and cultivating this child to be someone, and they still want their biological father to walk them down the freaking aisle. And he has to stand there and watch and take it. This is why I say men are never given empathy or grace as human beings, especially in the gynocratic Black community. These men are just expected to step in with no pushback, no objections, no, even when the relationship ends, the ties with the children end. And then sometimes the man is expected to take care of those children through child support, even though they're not biologically his. What men are basically saying is we have to reevaluate stepping into these roles as stepdads, because a lot of times these men are not getting the respect, they're not getting the dignity, and they're not getting the admiration that they deserve for standing in when the biological father refused to. That's what he should have said. That's all I got, man. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, get it cracking in the comments. I'll see y'all in the credits. 2 fingers. Peace. I'm out.
Like Jesus.
I don't ask for much from you. It's like you don't got the time to lose. Make me feel like I'm a burden when I tell you I want